at any point. But, hopefully I say some things that resonate with some people. What I pride myself on is I'm the same person on a Zoom chat tonight as I am up on stage, or when you see me walking around at any of the events. I do encourage you to stop and say hello. Clearly just remind me where we've seen each other before or where we met each other, but I'm happy to give people my time, which I think is the most valuable thing that we can actually offer. And I think the most valuable thing we all have in our own lives. So, like Alex said, just to give you some context, a MIL75 member, if we're talking about volume points, and some of you might have only been hearing about volume points for the first time, volume points is value points. It's when we actually impact people with the products. So my business in my 3 levels, for example, would do 150,000 volume points every single month. And that's sort of what the MIL 7,500 level is. And that just means that I've been able to bring value to people, been able to recruit people into my business and teach them to bring value to others, and so on and so forth. I want to share a bit of a story later on. I'm sure there'll be some conversations or some questions in regards to some of the business and how we get paid. But I think, like what we all do is we start with our own story. I'll share a little bit of that and maybe sort of, lead us some of the other stuff through there. But, we all have a story on how we get started. And mine was probably innocuous, and like with everything else, it's like a skim of the rock. And I'm somebody who's really, really open. I think my humility is what led myself to being able to get started in this business. I certainly don't come into it, and I was probably one of those rare personal trainers that may have not had a huge ego, but we'll talk about that a little bit as we go along. So yeah, I got started. I was a gym manager. I had the largest team of personal trainers in the country, topped out at about 45 rent-paying trainers in the the outer suburbs of Melbourne. Something that wasn't supposed to happen. Nobody thought could happen. They thought, roughly sort of a team half that size was impossible. And I like those sort of odds. It's, like if anybody's seen that show, How You Met Your Mother, that challenge accepted type of philosophy is how I sort of roll with everything. And I just saw one of my personal trainers, a friend of mine, somebody who trained me. He was actually a kind of a lazy dude. He sort of did just enough work to, pay his rent and make a sort of okay life. And I just noticed that he was actually getting better results with his clients. He was retaining his clients. Therefore, they were actually doing more programs with him. He was certainly much more energetic, sort of coming into the gym, staying a little bit later. And so, my initial joke with him, he used to drink the tea out of a Mount Franklin water bottle. And I actually asked him if he was drinking his own urine, if I'm being honest with everybody on the call. And, Matty just sort of had a bit of a laugh. And then he was sort of fiddling around with an Ultimate Pack out the back where the personal trainers got to hang out. And I asked him what he was using. And he proceeded to probably give me the worst explanation of what Herbalife Nutrition, the products are and were. It just goes to show, and it's something really important for your notes, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. You really can't. But what he did say, in amongst all of the garble that he sort of gave me, and I say that with respect, he said energy. And I said to him at the time, like, I was feeling really poorly. He had no idea how bad I was actually feeling at the time. And it's really important to maybe think about that too. People can look really, really sort of solid on the surface a lot of the time. I was feeling absolutely appalling. And when he mentioned energy, I said, mate, I don't care if you have to put it in me, on me, or up me, just give it to me. And so I actually took him, almost grabbed him by the hand, walked across to an ATM and got out the retail cost of 2 Ultimate Packs. And, and I just want to sort of walk you through this story a little bit, and I'll sort of speed it up a little bit later on. But, I took these 2 Ultimate Packs home and, I ate organic. We've got, my father-in-law and mother-in-law at the time, living a couple of 100 metres down the road from us, have a half an acre of fruit and vegetables, organic, proper organic food. We ate well, not like our clients sometimes tell us I was actually eating well. I went home and, showed my wife, got these 2 Ultimate Packs, and she said, we don't need to use those. Now, one of the things, and I want you all to be really, really clear on this, is that scientifically we need to have nutrient support in order to complete all of our nutrition. It's just a piece of the puzzle that's missing for all of us. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And certainly in a lot of cases. People just don't know. And, you know, one thing's about facts is that they are factual, they're real, and opinions are just those things that sometimes we just go around and sort of hold on to protect ourselves, you know, from lots of different things out there. And it's just, you know, fear. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, hopefully later on if I remember. So anyway, we duplicate everything. So Maddie obviously wasn't, you know, didn't get followed up or any of that sort of stuff on the products. And therefore I didn't get followed up on the products. So I meandered my way through my first Ultimate Pack. And luckily, as it turns out, my wife didn't actually use the other Ultimate Pack. So I was halfway through the second one thinking, oh, well, I've just bought another supplement that didn't work. And then all of a sudden, you know, click, the lights went on for the first time in a long time. And I had that energy shift that I was promised. And for me, that was a significant thing all on its own. And what happened in terms of, you know, the importance of the meetings, Matt just did the right thing. He brought down a president's team member. It doesn't have to be somebody of that level, but brought down a president's team member who spoke to all of us about longevity in our industry, and something that probably doesn't happen as often as it should. The attrition rate at the time I was a personal trainer was about 2 years from somebody getting in the industry and getting out. It's actually around about 3 months now, which is kind of scary all of these years later. And I speak to people that do the education courses and stuff like that. So I'm pretty up to speed with, you know, the numbers as they stand. So anyway, he came down. I decided to be a supervisor once, you know, the marketing plans changed a little bit, but, you know, you were able to go to supervisor all by yourself very, very quickly. And it took me about 6 hours from making the decision to then becoming a supervisor. I was, once again, you know, my first 24 Ultimate Packs that I retailed in the first 4 days that I had it, I didn't follow any one of those people up. I did exactly what was taught to me. And so it was really important, you know, like I said, I'm not going to, you know, tell fibs or lie about anything that's happened to me. I didn't follow any of those people up, and therefore I didn't retain any of my customers. But I got off to a fast start, and I also understood that I didn't know much about this particular business. Now, I was told a whole bunch of stuff, and as smart as I was, I made some really dumb decisions, and I didn't go along to any of the meetings. But what I was very, very excited early on. And, you know, my first proper month in the business, I came back. There was seven days to go at the end of the month. In my first real month in the business, I did 23,500 personal volume points. And the really cool thing about that, in terms of education, I didn't know that that was a big deal until somebody told me that that was a big deal. And then all of a sudden I thought it was a big deal. And the very next month, the only time I've ever not done 2,500 volume points, I did 1,250 volume points the very next month because I thought I was a big deal. And so my attitude, my ego got in my way. Now, that can get people in their way from starting the product, getting registered, or in my case, continuing on with bringing value to the marketplace. Obviously, I rectified that shortly after that. And I, you know, I was talking to somebody and they sort of mentioned the Spectacular. Now, for those of you who haven't gone, it's really hard to sort of maybe really convey what a Spectacular can do or how it is. And I've found myself in exactly the same position. Now, just once again, through the skim of the rock, this coincidence, I was actually going to go to the movies, but instead I went along and did sort of an annual, you know, just checking up on myself, did a blood test, and, you know, remembered I needed to, you know, do an ultrasound on my shoulder. I was a pretty active martial artist. So I was doing some cage fighting at the time, getting ready for my second black belt in martial arts. And so I went along, and while I was there, I said, oh, that's right, my osteopath said I should get an ultrasound on my neck. I had a sort of a swollen neck, and I thought it was from getting out of headlocks the wrong way. And so another real important learning tool here, the doctor said, through his probably ego, I think, how dare the osteo give me advice, we'll just do your shoulder, we won't worry about your neck. Now, I used to teach whole food nutrition to people, and I used to advocate, or get them to advocate for themselves. Just tell the doctor, listen, I'm under the care of a personal trainer, just, you know, track my blood work for me. Thanks very much. So basically, you know, speak for themselves and make sure that they know what's going on. And so I politely said to the doctor, it's not your flipping money, just write the write the thing, write the referral. And I've just substituted a word there if you're not quite clear on that. Anyway, so I went along and, the ultrasound went a little bit pear-shaped, especially when they start calling you Mr. Hayden and stuff like that. A few days later, I got a phone call at work and, Mr. Hayden, would you mind bringing, your wife back down to the doctor's surgery, which is, always a bit of a interesting thing that I hope never happens to anybody on this call tonight. And I went down and then I was told quite bluntly from the doctor that I was so polite to, that I had cancer or looked like I had cancer. Now, being the good little soldier boy I was, I rang my work and spoke to my manager and said, listen, just been given some news. Looks like I might have cancer. And he said, are you going to be right for work tomorrow? And that was his response. Now, I'd already, obviously committed the cardinal sin of signing an ID with Herbalife Nutrition. So, I wasn't particularly popular at the gym. Now, remember, guys, those of you who are new, that's me being a little bit facetious. And the funny thing was that the more these little things happen, the more people were trying to push me down. The type of person I am, if I see one side of the street where people are sort of knocking people down and the other side of the street where people are trying to pick people up, I'm going to go with the kids on the other side of the street, whether that's swimming upstream or not. Now, I was very, very naive. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the business. I thought the products made sense. They were scientific. They weren't, this is all right. Look at the guy with the big muscles or the person with energy. That was based on science. Which I try and base all of my work and my professionalism with. And then once I was told that, it really made me take seriously this invitation, this suggestion from, a mentor type person that, to get along to this spectacular. Now, a couple of reasons why I went. One really important one for me was that unless I went and saw everything that this business had to offer, I shouldn't ever leave it. And so the spectacular is a representation of that. It's the best of Australia and New Zealand, and usually a wonderful guest speaker from overseas who was doing incredibly well speaking at the event. The other thing was that the person that I'm talking about actually said you can will your business, your ID, the business that you create, to whoever you want, in my case, my family. And given the circumstances of that diagnosis, that became really, really important to me very, very quickly. So another really important reason to head along. Now, I was given that diagnosis 2 days before that event. Now, I believe, we always have a choice. We always have a choice. Now, I had a choice to sit around and feel sorry for myself or go along and see what this thing is and spend a nice weekend. So, and a really important one too, if you can bring your partner to one of these big events, I suggest you do, even if they don't or are not able to consistently be at all the other stuff that we do. I think it's a really important thing, if you can, to do that. I know I've got people that are going over there with, parents to babysit kids so that, husband and wife or, the partners can go along. And so anyway, I went along to this event. Now, within the first half of the first day, I realised that I was part of, or, becoming part of something really, really special. And so, we talk about notes and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure there's people on the call going, I'm not going to take bloody notes. Why do I need to take notes? All this sort of stuff. Now, when I was at school, I was bloody horrible at taking notes. And I used to get in trouble all the time because I'd be able to retain the information, but I didn't want to write, any of the notes. Now, I can retain the information. It's a funny thing what our ego will do or what actually it'll tell us to do. So I started taking notes for the first time in my life. And I've taken so many notes. I always carry around, my journal. I've filled up so many of these, I can start putting them, in the library at home and stuff like that. And that will actually, these little books with this scribble that I put in there from all the people like yourselves to help me have a little set of words or a particular idea or a way of framing something that I didn't think of before is really, really important. And once again, going back to the couple, you could have the same two people in a house taking notes about what I've said. and then they can refer to the notes they took, and they can be completely different. Because remember, we're in a people business, and people hear and get inspired by different information all of the time. And it's something really important to remember. Now, I've never been to an event that I haven't taken notes at, and I've never been to an event that I haven't felt like I've gotten value from. Now, here's the kicker. 95% of the time in my entire Herbalife career, I've probably not wanted to go to events. 95% of the time I'm sitting here as a, MIL 75 member, but 100% of the time I've been glad that I went to the event. There's always things that we could do. You're watching the footy, go down to the beach, hang out with your mates, do whatever, hang out with your partner, hang out with your kids. There's always something going on. But one of the things I did, especially, or one of the things I still do actually, was take myself seriously and take my business seriously. The funny thing that happens, we've got this $83 opportunity that unlocks 96 countries around the world, and this multi-generational income, or the potential of this multi-generational income. And we treat it a little bit like a hobby, and probably look at it like an $83 investment. Probably spend more on a Saturday night, having a good time, blowing off some steam with your friends and your family, or just blowing off some steam. So what I did is I actually treated myself like a CEO. And the other thing in terms of expectation, I think expectation is an interesting thing to maybe look at and study a little bit for yourself. But when I signed my ID, I looked at this little word called independent, independent Herbalife member. I had no expectation of my sponsor. I had no expectation of his sponsor or their sponsor. I knew that I was in this business and it was my business. Now, I'm not sure about you, but nobody else pays my bills for me. Now, you might have a different setup wherever you live in the world, but when I'm actually running my business, I know that whatever I create, that is what impacts my family. That is what pays the electricity and the rates and all the other stuff that we actually have to do, put the kids through school and stuff like that. I want a life of choice. Now, everybody's got their dollar figure, and I'm not going to rabbit on about, the money I make, but I keep things very, very, very simple. And these are a couple of questions that I ask. If somebody was sick or in need in your family or your friendship circle, let's say in the States, let's say in the United States, could you buy a ticket for yourself and your loved ones, leave and go over to that particular country, let's say, like I said, in this case, the States, and stay over there as long as you need to be able to look after the people that you love without worrying about your bills back home, or paying your rent or paying your house repayments and stuff like that? If the answer is no, then I'd probably suggest that you take yourself even a little bit more seriously, because you've unlocked through that $83 ID the potential to make that answer yes. Now, in my case, it happens to be a yes. And my hope is that everybody sticks around long enough that the answer is yes for you too. And that brings me to the other point, that the only real mistake that you can make is quitting. Now, if times get tough, probably suck it up a little bit, would be my suggestion. Maybe toughen up a little bit. Let's really just break it down. We're in this wonderful business around wonderful people, and the only thing that we actually have to deal with is self-discipline, our ability to be able to go out there and just do the work and show up to events and do all of the things that we're talking about before, and putting up with people hurting our feelings. They're the only things where we actually have to worry about in this business. Now, and probably third, and something we'll talk about a little bit more, is our own shame. And shame comes from lack of knowledge. Now, if you really understood the marketing plan, the compensation plan, and the products like I do, then you would have no shame, no doubt at all. Like at all. And most of the time when people don't understand how we get paid, or, any of the old, misunderstandings or ignorance about our business and our payment structure, that's where the shame comes in. So one of the things that I do is I really want to make sure that I go and learn as much as I possibly could. And I tried to compress that in the shortest amount of time. So I'll use an analogy. I like to train with analogies. My first black belt that I got in Taekwondo, I would do a new kick or something like that, and I'd fall on my ass. Now, what I would do is I would go home and I would do that kick 500 times between Tuesday and Thursday, whereas somebody might do those 500 kicks or 500 times over the next 6 months. All I've done is compress them into a couple of days. What I did was the same thing, and everything that I've done when I took on personal training, when I left being a baker pastry cook and all these different things along the way, is that I just went all in. And with my Herbalife business, while I still had this really, really big full-time responsible gig, I went to every single meeting I could possibly go to. And we had this fortunate thing, and you guys have got a wonderful team where you have these Sunday night calls and everything like that. It's very easy to get on. It's also really easy to watch Game of Thrones or, something else that's, something Netflix or, whatever's going on at the moment. And there's heaps of new streaming services. So there's so many different opportunities that you don't have to be on this call, listen to a goose like me. But for those of you that do, there's that potential that I might say something, or you just think this guy's a goose, I could do this way better than that guy. Whatever actually helps you move forward is fine by me, because what I want is people and peers that I can actually go through this business with through the years that are to come and form friendships like Alex and Leah were talking about before, and Craig and people like that are on this call tonight, that I call my close friends that follow me up, care for me, I care for them, talk about our families. That's a really, really special thing. And one of the really cool things about our business is we bond very quickly because we're effectively swimming upstream. We're doing this paradigm shift that, is completely opposite to what we get taught. Get educated, whatever that looks like for you, get a job and be thankful you have one, and hope to hell you can hold on to it until you retire, and then retire on a quarter of what you're actually been making for the rest of your life and expect to have a nice retirement. And we talk about these stories about people retiring and then kicking the bucket a couple of weeks later, or a couple of months later. It's because they lack a mission. And one of the things that happened to me throughout all of the surgeries and treatment that I've had, and, we're talking eight years later, 8 years next month that I was diagnosed, I've just finished another round of treatment. Now, if I hadn't had a mission or a why that was bigger than mine or bigger than me, I'm not sure how that would have all gone. The other part, and something that's really important and something to be really proud of with our business, is that we're a really ethical company. We don't make fancy medical claims, and we don't make bullshit claims about our income and stuff like that. And we're really tightly regulated. That's something to be really proud of. Now, if somebody talks to me about the ethics of my business, I said, I'll put my ethics of my business, my corporation, my giant, a nutritional giant, up against yours. Let's sit down and talk. My business is far more scrutinized, as is the product range, probably than just about any business or product range in the entire planet. That is something to be really, really proud of, like really, really proud of. Go back to my fantastic example of not following up any of my clients, original clients, on the products, like dumb smart person. One of the most important things that we can do in our business is retain all of our people. Now, if you think about training, if you think about clientele, any successful corporation focuses or should focus on the retention of their people. It means not having to train people over and over again, means not having to go and find new people over and over again. And I'll give you an example of that. If over the next 10 years as a supervisor, you just accumulate 1,000 people that are just consuming a shake every month, it's about $15,000 in terms of like a check every single month or an income every single month. It's a different way of looking at the whole thing too, isn't it? So while you've got people who may not want to do the business over time, or may want to just sit out for a while, or, don't want to be on the Ultimate Pack all the time, having a shake or a container in everybody's house around the world could change everybody's life on this call every single month, and have a life that you deserve, And it's actually okay to want that and know that. It's funny, like we talk a lot about our income will never exceed our personal development. I'd probably take that a step further. Our income would never outgrow our self-worth and self-image. You know, it was really funny when I got my first, $20,000 check, $25,000 check. My initial thought, my very first thought was, I'm not worth this. And so it took a little while to adjust to that and probably do some personal growth to be able to start to expand that and increase that number over time. Now let's talk a little bit about people not really getting or being a little bit negative. Now my experience, and everybody thinks that, personal trainers are the key, or, they're going to be great because they've got client bases. A whopping 2 personal trainers out of those 45 joined me in the business, and neither of them are part of my business anymore. So there's never a sure thing. Then I've got people with, what looked like very little skill or very little reason to do well in this business that have just exceeded this incredibly. And one of the things that I think we should all focus on, doesn't matter how long this journey goes for, or, how you view your sponsor, is one of gratitude. And gratitude is something that you can foster all of the time. It's something that I really try and focus on, all the way through the day, but certainly as a particular focus in the morning and in the evening. Try and bookend my day with gratitude. Now, I'll tell a little story around that. My eldest daughter's in high school now, and in the first couple of weeks of her going to high school, I said, and I had my younger daughter, who's now 12, in the car, who's just about finished primary school. And I said, when you walk past, there's a little basketball stadium, near the high school. And I said, when you walk past that basketball stadium, there's a PT studio there. And inside that PT studio, there's the guy that actually got us involved in the business. And I want you to just be, a little bit happy and grateful and say a little prayer every time you go by, because the person in there is the reason why we have the life we've got today. Now, I've never seen my sponsor pretty much since I left the gym back in 2012. Now, he has a wonderful pretty good extra check that he gets every single month, because he just had a really shitty explanation about this wonderful product range that we've got. He doesn't understand the business. He doesn't have any clue about what could it actually mean for him and his family, other than the fact that he's got this thousands of dollars check every single month that comes in. Now, what I can't control how he views it, but what I can control is how I view it and how I can then bring value to people. I'm going to share another story that just happened today. I can't wait until the Q&A, so I'm just going to share it now. I had one of the new guys that I'm working with ring up, and he said, I had my sponsor, who happened to be his brother, his younger brother, ring up and say, oh, you've just done your first cut of World Team and all that sort of stuff. I was just wondering why I haven't been getting my checks the last couple of months. And it's very simple, because he hasn't done anything. He hasn't helped one person with the products at all. And so therefore, no value, no goodness out into the community, no check. Isn't that fair and wonderful, and something that none of us are actually used to in our jobs? Who busts their ass at their job, their work, and their boss, who sits around with their thumb anyway, like not doing much, and gets more money than they do? Like, that's the paradigm that we all actually live by and think is okay, because it's just been drummed into us since we were young. It certainly was in my case. I look at what we do and let's go back to it. The only mistake that I could make was quitting talking to people or trying to talk to people because my feelings were hurt. I'm really lucky. I have this little circuit breaker when it comes to my family. I don't care who I have to talk to or if I have to shovel shit, as long as they get what they deserve, everything that they deserve. So if my feelings get hurt from time to time, so what? So what? And when my feelings get hurt, the best place to be is around other people whose feelings are getting hurt are the Herbalife members. There's sometimes when we just get on calls like this and realise that there's just normal people that can live extraordinary lives, and we can all just wrap our arms around each other, whether it's online or in person. A couple of things that I do, and I can just share about what I do and I see as important, is I go to the monthly events. And if somebody's kind enough to ask me to go to one of the monthly events around the country, I make sure that I'm available to do that, because I believe in, giving as much as I can back to this wonderful gift that's been given to me, and hoping that I can impact at least one person every time that I speak. Just the same as I was first time I heard somebody speak, in a loving way about this opportunity that we have. So, I'm sort of weaving everything in over the journey, but I'm going to touch back on that first year of my business. I went to the Spectacular and I got my armor, my beating heart in this business. In the first 12 months of my Herbalife business, I had 2 6+ hour surgeries. I had both my daughters have their tonsils out. I had 2 lots of really heavy treatment. I also completed my second black belt in martial arts, and I got to that $5,000 to $15,000 a mark royalty-based income in this business. So if you don't have time, that's not, and I want you, those of you who are new or haven't heard me bang on about this before, if you say you don't have time, it's not a statement of fact. It's kind of bullshit. It's a statement of your priority. So not prioritizing yourself or valuing yourself or your family enough, or the loved ones that you have enough to actually make the time to learn the skills, to be able to talk to whoever sits in front of you. Now, if you don't have the skills to talk 1,000 different ways to 1,000 different types of people, then you still have some learning to do. Now, it doesn't matter how long you've been around for. It is your responsibility, now that you've had a gift given to you, to pass that gift on. I believe that if you don't pass the gift on, sometimes that gift can be taken away from you. And so another thing that I want to talk a little bit about is shame and leadership. So a lot of the times, what we're used to, the paradigm we're used to is shame-based leadership. You do it or else, or if you don't do it, you're not good enough. I would suggest that the person on the shake or the world team member or beyond in your business, you should love exactly the same. And somebody that you could actually read some of their books or watch their YouTube clips is Brené Brown. It's Brené, Brene, with a little apostrophe above the E, Brown. She does some wonderful stuff. She's also got a Netflix little thing too. And a book called The Gifts of Imperfection is a really, really good one, especially, I think, boys or girls, but I think some of the girls have more guilt heaped upon them from lots of different reasons, motherhood, pregnancy, all sorts of different things, which is really unfair. So I think shame's a really important one to look into. And it also, some of the behaviours that it actually manifests in ourselves. And so once again, armouring yourself and really understanding yourself a little bit better will allow you to help and understand more people better and be kinder to them. And one of the things that, I often see hold people back is fear. Fear's a thief. And when they say false evidence appearing real, it's the stories or fantasies that we tell ourselves. I can't do this. It's not, it's not who we are that holds us back. It's who we think we're not. That's what actually holds us back. And it's a really, really funny thing that there's no limitations that we actually have, except for the limitations we put on ourselves. And I don't know how spiritual anybody is on the call and that. And I don't really, I think we all, there's something out there. It's just not magic that happens to us. But at the end of the day, I think when we go to the next place, whatever that is, we're going to realise that all of the worry and all of the stuff and worrying about people talking is just bullshit. It's not real. And a lot of times we're harder on ourselves than we need to be. And that's that shame cycle, that guilt cycle that I'm talking about. I'm just looking down at my notes and making sure that I'm covering all the things that I needed to cover tonight. I'm actually probably rabbiting on a little bit too much. The importance of community, I think we've touched on that. The importance of giving up, the obstacles that we face. Just share a little bit of an obstacle about what I faced. Like I had people trying to shut me helping people with Herbalife down at the gym. I also had a memo go around for an entire gym chain saying that I was not welcome to walk into their clubs with my name on it. So, I'm not sure what sort of negativity you've copped, but I'd suggest that, you can cop a fair old whack and still, build a business. What I do know, guys, what I do know for an absolute fact is that there's enough people that'll say yes, because enough people have said yes, at least to this point in my business, to make this wonderful lifestyle that I have. Somebody said to me today, sorry, I called you on a Sunday. I said, man, I don't care. Every day's the same for me. Every day's the same for me, and it feels like it feels like I'm on holiday every single day. So I don't have a life I need to take holiday from. And that's something that I wish for everybody on the call tonight. Now, and one of the things I just want to touch on last, and then the Q&A can crack on because I just looked at my watch. I apologise. Is focusing on the Active World team. Look at your books, look at your career manuals, see where all the steps are, and focus on Active World team. Because once you get to Active World team, you have all the skills that you require in order to go as far as you want in the marketing plan. And so Active World team is the only position that we have to requalify for every single year. And it's a wonderful opportunity because it helps us build our businesses in the meantime. You look at this marketing plan, the way it actually scales up and all that sort of stuff, it is designed for us, to benefit us, to grow, in periods of our business and encourage us to do more in terms of actually helping us grow our business. It's remarkable, this thing that we're part of. It's quite brilliant. And it's something that continually learn about and foster that absolute awe that we've got. So with all that being said, guys, make sure you're getting on these calls and really, wrapping yourself up and filling your cup back up. Because if your cup's empty, you can't then go and provide value to someone else, in my opinion. That's why team calls are important. You're lucky you guys have got team calls. We don't do and haven't had the same support as you guys have in the Kuta organisation. I think it's a wonderful thing that you guys do. I always go to the monthly events. And the two things that I think are not negotiable, and I make the monthly events the same for me, is the spectacular and the extravaganza. And we've got one coming up in January. Guys, I really hope that everybody that's on this call I see there, because especially the ones that, are seeing it again, just, we all are just so in awe every single year. And those of you who haven't seen one before, I am so jealous of the experience that you're just about to have, because it's so, so cool. And it's something that I get to speak about and I try and impart all the time. But the spectacular is just the best. It is the best weekend. And if nothing else, you are just going to have a cracking time. So I suggest just making it happen. Prioritize yourself, value yourself enough, care about yourself and the people enough to just go and have a look or re-look at it again and fire yourself up. It will change your life if you let it. I promise you. I promise you. Now, Q&A. Knock yourselves out. Let's go. What do you got? Or have I shut everybody up? What's going on?
All right, guys. So awesome so far. I'm tingling. But Nat put up a post and a couple of people replied. So Nat, you had the first question, so I'll let you go first. All right?
Thanks, Alex. And thanks, Phil. It's just been amazing listening to you. I have two questions, but I'll ask my first one. I'm really building momentum in my business now, and I just wanted to get your advice around recruiting people and how you go about it and what's worked and perhaps what hasn't worked that well.
Okay. Well, I can guarantee there's been a lot that hasn't worked. And firstly, congratulations for having momentum in your business. I think momentum needs to be built upon. And when you've got it, you need to run with it. one of the things that's just really, really simple is like, you know, hey, Nat, who's your nutrition partner? And you go like, oh, I don't have one. Oh, really? I could hook you up with mine. Like that's just a great way to get started. Now, remember, and this is an expression that I use and I think it's unique to me, is that we're a sentence on top of a conversation business. So every opportunity that we actually have a sentence and we're talking to someone, we have an opportunity to just say, hey, you know, who's your nutrition partner? What nutrient support do you use? Oh, you don't use any? Oh my goodness, I can hook you up. Don't worry. Make it cool. Make it easy. Make it effortless. You know, don't make it awkward. People feel energy. They really feel energy. And also, if you're not confident, people pick up on that sort of stuff. Anybody walked into a shop or something like that and somebody's just, you know that they're just trying to benefit themselves and you can pick up that energy and it's really like not a very nice energy. Just, you know, don't be that person. We've got this wonderful thing and we don't have to be like, whoa, you know, like all over the top of them either. Remember, there's enough people and you're doing them a favor, you know? So that's just, hopefully that answers your question, but I just try and keep it really, really simple. When I first started, I used to try and science people to death with the products. You know, I'm a geek when it comes to all this sort of stuff. I could. And now when somebody asks me how it works, I go, pretty good. And I just smile and then I shut up because, you know, if you want to get a bit more technical in sales, whoever talks first loses. So just don't talk at somebody. How's it work? Works fantastic. I feel great. Smile. If you feel like it, but if you're, you know, using the products, you feel like smiling. I'll give you the hot tip. Hope that answers your question, Nat.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Who's next?
You go.
Me. Hi.
Leah, hi.
Fantastic. Heard you many, many times before.
You'd be getting bored by now, wouldn't you?
No, still got a page full of notes of stuff. So
Thanks, Leah.
Yeah, as many, the same person I think I've been to. And, you know, just one quick thing I want to say is, you know, as I just said, I've heard Phil quote, you know, so many times, and you might get guest speakers that come and think, oh, I don't need to go because I've heard him before. Phil, I just got more from him, so never miss an event. My question to you, Phil, tonight is, how do you keep your team inspired?
I'll answer that in a little bit of a different way. I'll also try and touch on it. The right people you don't need to inspire. Like you're on the call, right? You know, you're on the call and, you know, everybody else is on the call. You know what? Nobody ever needed to remind me to get to something. Nobody ever needed to remind me to go to an event. And one of the important things is if you don't have enough people that actually you don't have to worry about jumping on a call or going to an event, you know, then you actually need to probably spend some more time getting some more people. We fall into this management mode where we try and manage our people, when in actual fact we're leading an army of volunteers, a volunteer army. And so there's no necessarily a need there to be, you know, wanting to like push through in this business unless it's coming from within you. So how can you inspire someone? By example. So if you're constantly a great version of yourself on the product and falling in love with them all over again every single week and constantly leading by example, so they're seeing you with new bodies in the system, seeing you with new people that want to do the business and or people that just want to love their shake. That's inspiring enough for other people, because guess what? If you had every single person that you had ever spoken to or ever gotten on the product that was still on the product, yeah, pretty kick-ass little business, right? You already do, but imagine taking that 10x, and that's what we're talking about. And something that I probably are just starting to reappreciate when we're talking about gratitude all over again. You know, if we could just get people just to value it under any circumstances, that they just know that they need to have that shake every single month, then we're going to win. It's just an accumulation of time. So hopefully that answers your question. Anybody else? Can be the same person, doesn't matter.
Nat, you had another question?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, a bit of a nerd.
That's all right.
Phil, I went to MLC when I sort of first started. I was just a customer of Cooters, and I remember you talking about your story and the first time you went to Spectacular, and I think I sort of was a bit in tears. I sort of was moved by it. When you went to that first Spectacular and you had to make the decision to go, what was going through your mind when you did that? Like, what made you think, no, I have to go?
Firstly, I'm sorry I make everybody cry. It's not
No.
really what I'm attempting to do. And when I've always been a bit like this when it comes to what people see as big situations. I do probably a little bit more easily. I get more offended, I think, or, have a bigger problem with people with bad manners than jumping on a plane and going to Adelaide or buying a house or something like that people make a big deal. I think not making it a big deal is probably the reason why I got over there, and I just try and make things fun. And so, like, I got diagnosed with cancer. I was starting to crack jokes, really probably poor jokes, straight away about having cancer. And then I just thought, I'll jump on the plane, have a nice weekend away with my wife. We qualify VIP everything and, a bit of accommodation, different things at the time. Why not? Go and have some fun. Because life's short, guys. It really is. And you don't know. Like, I mean, if I didn't have this business, if I had a normal job, I would have lost that job. If I had a normal business, a normal traditional business, I would have gone bankrupt. Would have lost my house, would have lost everything. But I've got this wonderful thing that's been able to pay me better than a normal wage this whole time because I got to work. Like, I actually got to work. Now, if you say you're doing this for your family, are you saying you're doing it for loved ones and all that sort of stuff? Prove it, would be my suggestion. Don't sort of give me these, people saying that, well, I'm doing it for my kids, and then, sit around all fear-struck because I don't want to talk to anybody about the products. So getting to the Spectacular, humble yourself. If you need to talk to someone, I would just humble yourself. If you have to get down on hands and knees and beg, who cares? Get them along to the event so they can see it for themselves and make their decision based on all the information and really understanding the heart. The other reason why I go to the Spectacular is it's like panning for gold. If you take people over there and they see it and they love it, great. But if they go over there, they see it and they don't get it, you've just saved yourself a whole bunch of time, which is really important too because it's valuable. None of us have spare time. Like, none of us have spare time. We'll always fill it up. We'll always use it. But going to the Spectacular, going to events, I find it's an easy thing. It's an easy choice because I don't give myself one. It's just, all right, I've got to go. Got to go bang. And, if I keep it really simple, then it becomes really, really simple. So hopefully that long-winded answer, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Jen?
Yep.
Thank you. Amazing call. Thank you, Phil. You've been so awesome. As per usual, you never fail to deliver. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Thank you.
The passion for the business that you have is just incredible, and it just comes through so clearly. But you've had to overcome so many obstacles over the years, obviously. I just really would love to know, what is your drive? Like, what gets you out of bed every day?
The ability, and it sounds cliche, but I think those of you who know me know it's true. This is bigger than me. And so it's really, really easy for me to do that. And I'll be lying if it wasn't. My primary driver was my family and being able to look them in the eye knowing that I've actually done my best. Because all you can do is your best. Not somebody else's best. It's you versus you. And some of the times when I've had difficulty in my business, what I've done is wrap myself up in helping other people in other businesses, other organizations. I give my time and my value, and I believe in karma. I believe in just giving. I believe the universe is a kind universe. And some of the challenges that I've had, I believe they've been gifts. Now, it's been terrible gifts sometimes, but gifts nonetheless. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about other people. I've learned and grown as a person. Once again, because I've had a choice. I could get better or I could get better. I know that there's much smarter people that have said that, but it's really true. So it's harder at the beginning. Make no mistake, your effort's up here and sometimes your business feels like it's down there, but it shifts. If you keep doing the effort, it will shift the other way. Eventually there's a tipping point. It's true. It's a tipping point. So how have I managed to do it? I'd be lying if I said it's easy, but where it comes to my motivations are all of you. My motivations are the fact that I've never been around or experienced the love that I've had in the past 8 years I've been in this business, with the people in it, the places and the people that I've gone and seen, and everybody that I've seen that's really, truly, wildly successful in this business have been some of the most humble, loving, caring people, which is the exact opposite to what we normally see, the CEOs and, the presidents of different businesses, or even down your local footy club that you see sometimes, around here. So, it's really easy to wrap yourself up and dream. And I'm a dreamer and an idealist. So, having a business like this, to be an idealist, it just fits perfect. And I've always been a bit of a square peg in a round hole. And I encourage you all to be as well. Anybody else? Really want you to ask your questions while you got me.
Crackles.
Yeah.
Phil, I love you, mate.
Crackles, love you too.
Hey, look, it's easy to know that resilience is one of those character traits that you need in this business to be successful. You kind of answered it in that last answer that you gave, but I just want to give maybe 3 key character traits or even skills that you have seen in the most successful people in our company.
Yep.
That you think that would be of value for all of us to adopt. So just 3.
Yep. Teachability, number 1. Teachability, number 1. Humility, number 2. And ambition would probably be number 3. So ambition means your own personal one, and you don't get to be successful in this business, sort of wraps itself up. You don't get to be successful in this business or be ambitious in this business without helping and serving other people in the meantime. That's a wonderful little trigger in our business, that you don't get to get ahead unless you're actually helping other people, help other people who help other people. It's wonderful. But teachability and humility. Humility allows you to be teachable, and humility allows you to be ambitious in the best way. So they're probably the 3 things, if I, had to answer right now.
And just quickly, I don't know if you know this, but on the 14th of December, I think it's out, Stefan Graziani is going to be coming to have lunch with us, Founders Circle member.
It's not out, but it is now.
It is there in Sydney, in Parramatta.
Really?
So if you feel
fantastic.
like coming up to hang out with us for the weekend, mate, you're more than welcome.
Poor. Yeah, well, those of you who don't know Stefan Graziani, he was kind of like the young kid on the block. He's like this, the Quentin Rivara of his time. He's an exceptionally well-educated guy who's clearly done all the personal development. I obviously got to know Mark Hughes and stuff like that, but he's just, probably the most level dude I've ever met. And he is just, when we talk about wildly successful, good God. You wouldn't be able to fathom it. So I'm not going to be able to really talk about it too much, but, it makes an income that would make all of our heads spin around. And once again, just really, really humble, very unassuming. But, all of those things I talked about, teachable, humble, and wildly ambitious. And, reap the benefits because of it. So, secret's out, guys. And, the more the merrier. You be around somebody who, success leaves clues. You've got to be around, right? Be around those things as much as you can. You can jump on a plane and go. And if I'm not doing scans or any of the other cool stuff I get to do at the moment, then, I'll be up there as well.
I hope you do, mate, because I love your presence.
Thanks, Crackles. Thanks.
All right. So we've got one last question, I reckon, from Mez. She put her hand up.
Sure.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much, Phil, for jumping on. I know how precious your time is. I'll keep it quick and fun. I know how you're big in your personal development stuff. If you could share, who's someone that you would say you look up to in terms of your ability? I know you're very developed in terms of your personal development, your books, you do the things outside, but I would love to know who's your go-to when it comes to really developing yourself more. If you could, maybe a book or someone.
Well, a couple of things. Sorry, Mez, I sort of cut you off there at the end. I apologise about that.
No.
Really nice to see you, by the way. The person I first started listening to before I knew about, even when I started the business, before I really, understood and fell in love with Jim Rohn, was not Les Brown, although I really love Les Brown, was Zig Ziglar. I really dug him. The big Southern accent, the fact that he was married and in love with his wife. I just, it was really, really cool. Now, I used to work out at the gym, like people listen to Doof Doof, listening to Zig Ziglar. I'd just be like, whoa, just going nuts because he just pumped me up so much. And another newer version or another person that I think is really good and got a good message is Simon Sinek. I think he's wonderful to listen to. Starting with your why and all that sort of stuff, I think is really relevant to what we do. I love Les Brown, I love Jim Rohn. But Zig Ziglar was the first person I listened to. Simon Sinek. I have an appreciation for Anthony Robbins, but Simon Sinek is probably the person that I really, really dig. I like Dave Goggin. I really like Gary Vaynerchuk, because he swears and stuff like I do when I'm not trying to be a really goody two-shoes. He's just really like down the pipe, and I dig that. So I'm throwing out a whole bunch, but Gary Vaynerchuk's good because like when people are like, oh, I really want to be successful and stuff like that, he'll like stalk them on Facebook and Insta and stuff to actually make sure they're not full of shit. Like, I just think that's awesome, to make sure they're actually doing the hustle and the grind and stuff that they're doing. So somebody actually once said to me like, oh, you sound like this guy. I was like, that was a really nice compliment. But, it's probably in the days where I probably swore a little bit more than I should have, maybe. So there's a whole bunch of names, guys. I encourage you, like what I talk about is bookending your day with, no worries. Bookending your day with personal development. Morning, when you get up and really fostering that thing in your mind, especially like even when you're just making your shake and your herbal tea and all that sort of stuff in the morning, I think is ace. I sometimes just get up, go for a walk, and, I chuck in my personal development, come back, make this, kick-ass wow shake, and then, sort of get about my day. And the other thing I didn't talk about too is discipline yourself. I don't get on and check Facebook as soon as I wake up, or Instagram, or my email, or anything like that. It's an addiction a lot of the time too. So I like set a time, and I won't look at any of that before the time. I don't want that to dictate my day or how it actually turns out.
Awesome. All right. Amazing. So thank you very much, my brother.
No worries. No worries. I hope I didn't keep everyone like 10:03. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
It's worth more than gold. No one's jumped off. Everyone stayed on. That's just how much you mean to us. And thank you.
So guys, we've got a couple of big announcements. So don't jump off. But firstly, just everyone, you're on mute, but just give them a big clap.
Woo! Can I jump off? Am I allowed?
Oh,
you can, sir. Thank you very much, everyone.
Guys, now listen to what they got to say. All right, listen to what they got to say. I'm sure there's lots of announcements.
Get a quick photo with everyone, yeah?
Yeah.
Sure, no problem.
Let's get the gallery.
Put the cameras on, everyone, if you can.
Everyone, get your cameras on quick.
Oh.
Big smiles.
Okay.
Lots of love for the great man. Thanks, mate.
No worries.
Thanks, Phil.
Guys, have a great night. I'll be flat out sleeping after all of that. All right. See you later.
Take care. Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye. Okay.
All right. So just let me stop recording this now.